Today we're talking about the break versus continue statements. In the last video we talked about the bool statement, and there's similar ideas in that the bool, like continue and break, is very useful if you want the flow of control of the program to change based on certain conditions occurring. In the case of the break statement, it breaks out of an enclosing loop and jumps to the statement after the last statement in the loop. In the case of the continue statement, it skips the current iteration of the loop, doesn't do the current iteration, but then continues with the rest of the loop. I think all this will be a lot clearer if we have some examples. I have 4 different loops here, and then another construct called a switch or switch case construct, all of which use break very extensively and continue in the case of the loops. And basically when I click on this, it does 2 loops, one that shows what happens in the break and one that shows what happens in the continue based on exactly the same condition. So if we look at the for event handler, as you can see, the first loop takes an integer ix as a controlling variable for a for loop, and it says take ix from 0 up until 9, auto incrementing it, and then if the ix is equal to 5, then break. And in the continue loop that comes right after it, that writes to the other list box, it does exactly the same thing, but when ix is equal to 5, it does a continue. And in the for each loop, it's pretty much the same, except I'm using an array of strings instead of an integer. And these strings go from 0 to 9. And within the break loop, I'm saying if the number equal to 5, do a break. And within the continue loop, I'm saying if the number equals to 5, do a continue. And for the while loop, we have the while test at the top. I initially set ix to -1, and then I auto increment it right after I enter the loop. That way we'll start from 0 and go to 9. And once again, I break on the number being equal to 5, or I continue on the number equal to being 5 in the 2 loops. And the difference between the while loop and the do while loop is with the do while loop, the while test is at the bottom of the loop. So we have a do up here, and then we have the body of the loop, and then we have the while test. But as you see, that makes absolutely no difference in this case. The one that really is completely different is the switch statement, which a switch statement basically just looks for one condition to respond to. So I have an ix variable set to 5, and then I do a switch based on the ix value, and I have case 1, case 2, case 3, and so on, down to case 9. And the one that should match is the case 5, because ix is equal to 5. So this should print out to the list box. And the equivalent of that in the old C and C++ days would be to have nothing after the condition. And basically what would happen in this case is if it's equal to 5, it would match on the 5 and do this print, but then it would match every case after this. So it would print the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8, and the 9. But it wouldn't print the ones before the 5 case. But now with C#, it just gives you an error message. It says control cannot fall through from one case label to another. I could actually uncomment this out. Well, I don't want to uncomment out the comment. Do Control EU to uncomment everything out. And you'll see this is where we get the error. If I hold the cursor over this, it should say that message, but it doesn't. I guess it's in, oh, there we go. See, control cannot fall through from one case label, case 2, to another. So basically I'll highlight this all again and do Control EC to comment everything out. Since we can't even do this in C#. We used to be able to do it in C and C++, and maybe you still can, I don't know. So if we compile and run this program and press the 4, you see we have 0 through 4 in the loop, and then it breaks and just drops out of the loop altogether. But with the continue, we have 0 through 4, and then it doesn't execute the 5, but it continues with the 6 down through the 9. And for the for each, we have much the same thing. 0 through 4, 0 through 4 skips the 5, and 6 through 9. The while, the same deal. Maybe I'll go back to the for each so we can see the do while actually changes things. Once again, 0 through 4 for the break, and only skips 5 for the continue. And then for the switch, it just prints out the case 5, since that's the only one that matched, and I have a message that it's not allowed in C# to do a continue. Well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.